Investigating Officer Brigadier Bongani Gininda is expected to continue testifying today in the Senzo Meyiwa Murder Trial at the High Court in Pretoria. Yesterday, Gininda testified on what led to the arrest of some of the accused. 5 men are on trial for the murder of the Bafana Bafana captain who was shot dead in Voslorus East of Johannesburg in October 2014. SABC News reporter Griselda Lewis joins us live for the latest. Griselda, a good morning to you. I think we can certainly talk about what we've heard from Brigadier Gininda, but I think a lot of interest still in what happens now after that scuffle that we saw between the accused and one of the officials of the court yesterday.
Well, that's right, Naledi. Some very disturbing scenes inside court yesterday, with, of course, that scuffle taking place between some of the correctional services prison warders and some of the accused. Of course, all of this started, as we've been reporting, after the warders had asked some of the accused during the tea break to sit properly. They didn't want them to sit on the head of the benches, if that's the way that I can describe it. But the accused are basically saying that they've always been sitting that way and they always want to stretch their legs after lengthy proceedings, of course. And that, of course, then led to the scuffle between them. Fists had been flying inside court yesterday, and we had to see some police officers also intervene to try and calm the situation down. We also saw a response from the Correctional Services Department describing what they say was the unruly behavior, quote and unquote, of the accused that were inside court, saying they're going to investigate the matter and that appropriate action will also be taken. So the judge also quite concerned by what had taken place, and once again reiterating that the decorum of the court needs to be respected at all times. But indeed, this in what we're expecting, Naledi, to be the last week of the court proceedings, at least for this term, before we return next year. The lead investigator in the Senzo Meyiwa Murder Trial, Brigadier Bongani Gininda, is on the stand. Yesterday we heard from him very briefly. He basically spoke about what led to the arrest of accused number 1, Muzi Sibiya, and how he was told by the arresting officer, who you would know was a previous witness in this matter, Sergeant Mahola, how accused number 1 had been arrested in Tembisa. Now, this had been on a drugs-related matter, and he spoke about how the arresting officer had told him about some admissions that Sibiya was making. But you would remember, of course, that Brigadier Gininda's name has come up several times in this particular matter. Well, obviously because he's the lead investigator in this particular matter, but also precisely because one of the versions of some of the accused is that it was Brigadier Bongani Gininda who at some point taken out documents that had to be signed by one of the accused. So what the accused, you would recall, are maintaining, in particular accused 1, Muzi Sibiya, as well as accused number 2, Bongani Ntanzi, is that they were forced into some kinds of confession. They did not do so out of their free will. They'd been tortured, they'd been assaulted, they'd also been tubed into doing so. So we're expecting a lot of that to be ventilated inside this court during the course of this week. But what we heard from Brigadier Gininda yesterday is what he told the court by saying that as far as he was concerned, when those admissions were allegedly taken, he didn't sense anything untoward about how accused number 1 had felt. Let's take a listen to what he briefly told the court yesterday about accused number 1, Muzi Sibiya's demeanor.
During my interaction with him, I did not observe any sign of panic or uneasiness before we started with the discussion. Nor did he raise any complaint with me.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point that we've heard there from him, Griselda. And then where were we expecting then the questioning to go today?
Well, Naledi, very much towards the further circumstances in terms of what led to the arrest of accused number 1 and him to shed a bit more light. After, you recall, Brigadier Gininda said, after he'd received a call from the arresting officer, that they were then going to the Voslorus hostel for further investigations. He says then he went to the Voslorus police station, and that's where he asked the officers that were there to please excuse themselves so that he can interview accused number one, Muzi Sibiya. That's where in that clip you hear him describe the demeanor of accused number one, Sibiya, as he was interviewing him. He also said that it read him his rights. But of course, following yesterday's scuffle, Naledi, there's been a lot of public commentary on what took place inside the court, almost overshadowing, what was meant to be the start of very crucial testimony by the lead investigator in this particular matter. And as a result this morning, I do understand, in addition to the South African mass movement that is here behind me, as well as, the family members of some of the accused who are expected to picket outside court here this morning, there's been a lot that the community has raised about what happened inside this court, which was also condemned. The judge categorically saying, well, that he doesn't want to take sides in the matter, but basically calling on everyone inside court to maintain the decorum of this institution. I want to bring in Mzukele, who is with the South African Mass Movement, and he's been consistently outside court on a number of occasions together with other community members. Yesterday, Babu, maybe we could start there. Quite worrisome scenes. I know that yourselves as an organization have been calling, for a speedy end to this trial. It's been going on for a very long time, but quite disturbing scenes yesterday. Would perhaps you want to comment on what we saw as a nation?
Yes, we want to comment, and we are concerned about what happened yesterday. I think as a community, as a South African, we must be concerned about the violence. We can't have a country where small issues are resolved by violence. What we saw here yesterday is really totally unacceptable. Here is the court. As the public, we expect court to deliver justice. But when the court is being undermined, to us, what is being done by the accused was the undermining of the state, because state represent us. We told the state to say, you're gonna uphold the justice system on our behalf. So whenever an accused or whatever attack the state, you are attacking us. So we are really, really very unhappy about what happened yesterday. And we call upon government to review this law, this justice system, because as a citizen, we're going to end up taking law into our hands, because we hope by taking people to court or whatever that we're going to get justice. But what we see here, we see people nursing people who have wronged other people. We can't accept that. We have not even discussed the Senzo Meyiwa case now. We're just discussing the right of the accused. But they keep demonstrating. These people are the same people who are working fingers to witnesses. Now it's them who now assaulting the police. That was not a scuffle, that was an assault. It could have been worse. Who's next now? It's going to be a judge. This is the undermining of the state. That's what we are saying, and there should be no justification. These people have lawyers. If they have any concern, there are lawyers who represent them. They can't take the law into themselves. So to us, these people, they are proving that they are dangerous to a society.
Mr. Kele, with the judge yesterday saying that he didn't want to take sides in the matter, of course, one is going to say this, the other is going to say something else. Obviously, I think the decorum of the court itself needed to be respected. I think all South Africans were watching in awe about what took place yesterday. We are likely to see the end, well, not the end, a pausing of the trial, towards the end of this week, and likely to return next year to continue with these proceedings. Perhaps as community members, what has your sense been about the trial thus far? And where we have been, we are within a trial at this current stage, and the lead investigator now, Brigadier Bongani Gininda, is on the stand.
Where we are, this justice system has been exposed that it favors criminal. We have been discussing the right of accused. We're still discussing the confession. What is that? When this case is going to start, where we hear what happened to Senzo? We're only hearing the right of the accused. That's why criminals are killing police, because they are treated with a 5-star treatment. They are getting 5-star treatment. That's why they have an audacity to even lay hands to the state. If you attack a police, you attack the state. That must be clear from us as a community, to say when you raise your hands or you take a gun, you shoot a police, you are attacking citizen. That must be clear, because we have given the state to say, look after us. If you undermine the state, you are undermining us. That must be clear, and there should be no justification in whatsoever. That's what we want to say. We have not discussed anything in terms of what happened to Senzo Meyiwa. We have been discussing the right of the accused, of the criminals.
Mzukele, thank you very much, sir. We appreciate your time. The South Africa Mass Movement, of course, community leaders that have been here. It's not the first time that they're outside court here this morning to raise their concerns about a number of things, including the length of time that this trial has sat. We're still, of course, within the trial within a trial, looking at whether the alleged confessions that were made by accused number 1 and 2, as well as the alleged pointings out, would be admissible in the main trial. Of course, what Mzukele is referring to is that within this trial within a trial, what is currently being discussed is whether these alleged confessions and the pointings out, had been solicited from the accused under any duress. Remember that the accused themselves say that they were assaulted, tubed, as well as tortured into these alleged confessions, or even signing some of these so-called prepared documents that they had been given. So this, of course, being one side of the coin, we're also expecting other picketers to arrive here. I think it's also going to be including some of the family members of some of the accused. A lot of commentary, and you can sense then, Naledi, the passion and the tension, or the high energy, if I can, in terms of those who've commented on this, from different sides of the coin, where people are certainly saying what happened inside court yesterday. What will also be very interesting to gauge this morning, Naledi, is whether correctional services would have beefed up its security. I think in that document that they released yesterday, describing the behavior inside court as unruly, the Department of Correctional Services, I guess when incidents like this do take place, would need to take a look at whether they need to review how much security they have brought to this court. It'll be very interesting to see this morning what will take place, whether there will be more personnel, correctional services personnel, that will be deployed inside court, because ultimately what needs to happen is to ensure that the proceedings are able to continue without any challenges. And I think in particular at this particular stage, when we have the lead investigator, Brigadier Bongani Gininda, who is on the stand. We're expected to hear more from him at 10 o'clock this morning, also live on the SABC YouTube page.